Let's see, Ange. Let's see. Guys, we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, Monday night. Angelo Gutios, myself, Stefan Bugalo, and we've got a hot topic to talk to you about. We're coming in a little bit early, so we're just going to wait a couple of minutes for this audience to build. But hopefully everyone had a good weekend. Angelo,
yeah, really good, really good.
Right.
But it was busy Saturday.
Yeah,
gosh, it's so overall it's good.
Definitely,
really good. So I'm glad the weather finally picked up as well. Plenty of people out and about.
Yep.
It was nice.
Well, that's interesting because that's going to line in with exactly what we are about to speak about. And it's a question, Angelo and I were talking earlier today. We've been hearing it pretty much for the last how many weeks? 3, 4, maybe even more weeks from people out there. Is this market, the property market, about to crash?
Yep.
And we've both got our own takes, which we're going to share with you right now. Ange, I know we've been pretty busy. What do you think? What are buyers saying to you out there? Like they're saying, they're asking us a lot of questions.
Look,
what are you hearing?
It's buyers and sellers. So I'm finding at the moment there's a lot of buyers waiting on the sideline, thinking that and knowing that look, there are going to be people that are going to be in a bit of desperate situation. Look, it's been pretty tough out there for a lot of people, but not for everybody.
Yeah.
So we've found that looking to purchase, being investors and owner occupiers, and for different, they've been the main two. We've noticed there's been a massive shift. I could almost say right now that there's 1 in 20 buyers, I reckon, that are coming through properties that are actually investors compared to where they were. So,
yep. So a lot of owner occupiers.
Yeah, and you've got to also look at these guys here that are looking at the moment. 90% of them again are not on job keepers or job seekers, so they're all still employed. They're pretty stable in their workforce. Otherwise, they wouldn't be looking to spend quite a bit of dollars at the moment. But
so we're hearing, like, one thing you and I were talking about is we're hearing a lot of people saying to us, "Oh, guys, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait because there's going to be all these desperate sellers in the market, and all these properties are going to come on, and people need to sell because they're desperate, and the bank's going to take it off them if they don't." Look, it's a great idea. I'd like to say that there's potential that'll happen, but we don't. We see this every day. We don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm just.
Let's say, how many? What do you think about the stock levels right now in the marketplace?
Well, I think that's all. Like, if you look at the average buying property, and property prices, you're really governed by only one thing, and that's always supply and demand. Now, depending on what happens in the economy or what the banks do, which they, a couple of years ago with tightening back and holding back on that side of things. And then you look at the demand in regards to looking at purchasing where, back in 2018, buyers wanted to buy, but buyers could not buy because of the bank situation. And people going for buy, like, let's say they had 2 or 3 properties and they were trying to use equity and wanted to buy more property, and they couldn't. They went to the banks and they couldn't get that funding.
Lenders were tighter. It's not that they didn't have access to money or equity. It was lenders were tighter.
A lot,
in 18.
What we're finding now is we're in. Obviously, and that's where the demand, I guess, had dropped off a bit because there were also a lot of people sitting on the sideline, and then there was more and more and more properties just sitting there on the market and building up. And as more properties came on the market, there was just a mass oversupply, and that's what caused the market to have quite a decent drop at the end of 18. What happened then at the end of that year, which was pretty surprising, which we knew was going to, there was a lot of buyers saying next year's going to be cheaper. Let's wait and see what's going to happen at the start of 19. There's going to be, it's going to be a better time to buy. And I remember this for the first month or two doing open homes in January and February of 19. Every buy that we were putting in our system were practically completely new buyers, and all these new people came into the market. How this relates at the moment to what we're going through right now is that there's a lot of purchases at the moment, and everyone's been, I wouldn't say everyone, there's a lot of people that are still only looking at the supply side of things and are looking that there's going to be a whole heap of people that are going to be desperate wanting to sell towards the end of this year, and there's going to be more properties on the market, hence properties are going to get cheaper. But what they're not looking at and not realising is that there's actually going to be twice, if not triple, the amount of buyers, because I actually believe investors are going to be back in there. plus the people that are desperate at the moment haven't found a place too. So there's actually going to be 2 to 3 times the amount of people looking to buy than what there is at the moment. So
even if there is a rush on properties, what we're estimating is there's going to be a big increase in buyers. That's what
yeah,
we're saying.
unless something happens to the market for 1 or 2 or 3 month period where buyers physically, literally pull back and actually, or like we did have a very uncertain time, which was we could almost say the 15th of March to the 15th of April. For about 1 month, the market was absolutely, properties were still selling, but owners were taking $70,000, $80,000 less because of their uncertainty of, what's going to happen in the next 6 months. You know, this has never happened before. We've just been shut down.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty, I don't know, look, I'm just finding that at the moment everything's selling. We've got a lot of people out there looking to buy. There's not enough properties on the market at the moment. That figure of and we look at DY as an example, where DY's got 9,500 properties in the suburb. It's probably one of the most, I wouldn't say overpopulated, but one of the biggest, most dense suburbs in the area, on the beaches, and if not Sydney. And there are only 64 properties right now for sale. Houses, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, studios. So if you actually, someone looking for a 2-bedroom unit or 3-bedroom unit, in the whole suburb, there's not many to choose from.
Yeah.
So it's
So I mean, you really to think that if your game plan is that you're going to be waiting on people to come to market that are desperate to sell, Angelo's basically saying you're missing one huge component in that. Okay, even in the circumstance that will occur, could occur. I'll say could occur, because we don't believe that will occur. But should it occur, we're also going to see an increase in buyer activity out there. So one is going to level out the other. So yeah, I don't think it's a great strategy. I think you should be buying real estate when you're ready to buy. I think there's great opportunity in the market still today.
And that's who is buying at the moment. If you look at the I had a good chat with an investor the other day on a unit, and this is a unit I had on the market in Pacific Grade, guiding 790, and over the period of a week or two, having 30, 40 people inspect the property.
Wow.
and a few offers. We exchanged the property yesterday, and one buyer that goes, look, this is my offer at the lower part of the range, question is where you're basing it off. It's like, I'm an investor, and one thing you could almost say to the guys, any investors at the moment out there, look, you are up against, unfortunately, a lot of owner-occupiers wanting to be first home buyers, people that are going and buying with their heart because they're actually buying for a property purely to live in.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's so little supply at the moment out there, they're going. So I'm not saying that it's a bad time for investors to buy. I mean, when is a good time? That's the thing. Is it's
when you're ready, mate.
It's when you are ready and you go out there and look for places. But I think even what we're going through at the moment, I think it's actually going to get.
And we've seen some big sales lately too. Like in the last 10 days, some of the results we've been achieving here in the office have been huge.
Yeah.
Like some of the figures are huge. So if you're sitting and waiting for the market to turn, it's not a good idea. Just get out there. When you see the right property, go and make a move for it.
That's it.
Because that's the best time to buy.
That's
what about buyers, Andrew? Are you seeing a lot of first home buyers in the market, or not investors? We spoke about that, but how are you seeing first home buyers? I've personally seen a bit of a decrease in numbers of first home buyers. That might just be myself.
There's also the lack of properties in that price point. You've got to look at first home buyers, and this is for anyone putting a property on the market around that 700,000 mark. It's very hard at the moment to get much over that amount, because you're finding at that entry level 700,000 for a 2-bedroom unit, for example, you've only got the first home buyers that are mainly looking at that price point, compared to someone that's either got more funding, that likes to go buy better property. They're good to spend that 800 or 900, but what we've realised as well, that properties around that $700,000 mark, there's a lot of purchase, and first home buyers at the moment still, from what I believe, with CBA, and I think it's also with NAB, where they're 5% deposit only required, and there's actually a government incentive going out there for a waive of a lender's mortgage insurance, which is another $12,000-$15,000 to that sort of amount. So a lot of first home buyers are taking advantage of that, but they actually cannot go 1 cent above 700,000, unfortunately.
So you're saying if there's a bit of a sweet spot, like 7 to 750, if you're a
Yeah.
buyer, there's good opportunity out there
Yep.
at the moment, because you're saying a lot of first home buyers capped at that 700 price point.
I found that. Yeah, especially that seven, anything priced around that 700 mark.
What about houses? Houses seem to be getting good activity.
Well, the houses are, because you look at Narrowena, there's 2 houses for sale in the whole suburb. Beacon Hill, same sort of scenario where there's only a couple for sale. So the fact that there's a couple for sales and you've got all these people selling apartments looking to move in, it's
so that's a supply and demand, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
One thing I heard and I thought about a little bit later was exactly what someone said to me. Oh, look, I'm going to wait because there's going to be all these desperate sellers and they're going to need to sell. And I thought, okay, what's if I'm in this position where I'm apparently forced to sell, or they're thinking I'm going to need to sell? I don't think you really need to sell unless you're forced to sell. And I think a lot of people are overestimating how many properties they think are going to be forced to sell. Like we don't see it a lot. Yeah.
If you're actually in at the moment look, you've lost your job.
Yep.
And you've gone through that scenario where you've got an investment or so, and why would someone wait till, as well, another question, till they actually really, really, really get in the red before they pull the trigger? That's another thing that I'm like, people that they're going to get desperate. Like if someone's actually, we've noticed it at the moment with the properties, even some of them coming on the market at the moment, where look, they've got an investment property and they're like, you know what, with a job, I've made a decent growth on it at the moment. I want to get rid, just to minimise my debts.
Yeah.
And they've been already started to put some of those properties on the market. So that's another thing as well that I'm finding it hard to believe why
people aren't going to wait to the last minute to get stuck. Yeah.
That's another thing. So
that's a good point. Very good point. Yeah. So yeah, and you've got to understand that how many times do we hear, and it's different, Angelo's Greek, I'm Serbian, we hear it a lot from our ethnic communities. They're like, boys, let me know when you get a good buy, and I'll jump in and I'll buy it. They don't realise you're competing with the marketplace. You're always going to compete with the marketplace. So if you see a bargain, odds are somebody else saw a bargain as well, and there's going to be immediate competition. So the fact here on the Northern Beaches is that, look, we're a lifestyle-based market. People want to live by the water. It's good schools. Transport's, improving. It's clean. It's safe. There's always
we as agents get outbid buying.
Yeah. So we can't even
like
we're out there fighting like everyone else. Yeah.
So it's no, look, it's good. Look, I think it's as in it's a very different industry. Look, I guess during a bit of a shock, and I think we went through something similar to what the stock market went through, where I looking at my super fund literally overnight and seeing a massive large chunk of it missing. And then, it's starting to build itself up again. I think we've now at that stage, even in property, where we've gone past the early stages of the COVID and look, there's even concern now. Are we going to go back into lockdown?
Yeah. Listening to the media, you don't know.
Look, are we going to? But I think everyone now is prepared. We know what the end was now, and how quick it's sort of, in March, I don't think anyone knew. We didn't know. We were even preparing ourselves to completely be working from home. And
I think that's a really good point, Ange, that now, even though there's what's going on in Melbourne, it's going on in Melbourne, and clearly the media is saying what they're saying is going to happen in New South Wales. But we know this time around what we're kind of looking at. And I think not just real estate agents, I think all industries are aware of, okay, this is how it happened a few months ago. So I don't think it's going to be so much of a shock to the system. And I think we're all going to be, this is going to be, I'm not going to say second time around, because I don't personally feel that the lockdowns are going to be quite like they were before anyway. I hope they're not. But I think we're all a little bit more wiser for going through what we went through a few months ago, and we'll be handling that a lot differently to how we did, 3 or 4 months ago. So in regards to the market crashing, I don't think so. Not on the Northern Beaches. I think it's a great time to buy real estate if you're in the market to do so. Still a great time to sell real estate. There's a lot of buyers out there. Like Angelo mentioned, if you've got a house, there's not a lot of competition out there. So I think it's been a good market. Days on market. Days on market is how long it takes to sell a property. I don't have the exact number, but we're moving real estate within 2 weeks pretty comfortably on a lot of property. So
I think at the moment is providing someone, especially the fact that there are such, or there is so low number of properties on the market at this stage. I think buyers are getting that stage where they're getting slightly desperate that they need to find something, and there's actually nowhere for them to.
Yeah, that's a good point. If anything, I'm seeing more. I don't like the word desperation because I don't think it's true, but I'm seeing more motivation in buyers rather than sellers.
They're missing out.
There's buyers that want property. I think more than sellers want to sell properties.
Yep.
Like, I really think there's going to be a little bit of a surge right now.
I think so too.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, make sure you put it in the comments there, and we're happy to answer anything as well. And what's the rental market doing?
Yeah, so rentals is an interesting topic as well. Obviously, something we've got our finger on the pulse with here at Novak Properties because we manage such a large portfolio of real estate. But I saw something on the news the other night. They were talking about all these vacancy rates in Sydney and what's triggering these, and guys, going to be another crash in the rental cycle. Look, I think you've got to understand rental market has changed as well. Rental market, depending on which price points you're at. I mean, if you're a one bedroom market, you're probably going to have a younger demographic of tenant, and that tenant might be working in these hospitality industries, which have felt it a little bit tighter. I think what we're seeing is that a lot of tenants are also seeing that the property market represents better value in buying today than it did 18 months ago. And you've seen a lot of tenants actually move back home, go back home with mum and dad to save a bit of cash and to try to build up that deposit to buy a property. Because with the way rates are right now, some of them are on par with what you pay for rent. So you can buy a property. And I think that's really the underlying factor. I don't think it's a factor that, investments are down because of COVID and things like that. Yeah, look, there's a minor influence in there, but I think a lot of people are seeing good value in the market and trying to buy property.
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing I'll say about the rental market is a little bit different to buying and selling, is that it is traditionally quite a seasonal property market when you're renting. So October, November, even leading into December, that's your peak letting window. That's when you tend to see a lot of people out and about. The weather's nice. Everyone's thinking about maybe getting closer to the beach or upsizing. And that's traditional movement amongst people. The winter months are always a little bit slower. So this is typical to see a larger volume of property sitting on the market now as opposed to summer. And what I was going to say is that I think as landlords have also been a little bit more conservative now, seeing what they've gone through in the last 3 months. So landlords aren't putting up rents maybe as aggressively as they were in the past. And tenants landlords are giving their tenants a little bit more love. They're trying to keep them in their properties because the last thing they want is for a tenant to come out of a property as well. So I think people aren't pushing tenants as hard as they used to in the past, which is fantastic for tenants. So they're staying in property longer. They're not coming out and looking. And then at the same time, a lot of people trying to buy real estate have come out of rental properties. And I think they're two big factors in why you're seeing a bit of an increase in stock levels on the market. But, listen to your property manager. The team here has done a phenomenal job over the last 3 or 4 weeks, some big numbers in lettings. They're moving real estate. We're not holding an excessively large amount of rental properties. It's pretty much just the normal here with us. So rental market's good. Just be smart. Don't necessarily go for the super top dollar. Get a tenant in there. Get a good tenant, someone you can rely on paying, week in, week out rent. And look after the property because
just a bit of a hint as well. Give your tenants send them an email. Give them a $5 or $10 discount. Something even so small they don't actually realise. But sometimes even having popping like a tiny little amount might be able to sort of entice keeping a tenant in there sometimes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Rather than obviously giving them. At the end of the day, I think the vacancy rates are pretty low compared to what we were expecting as well.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Even sometimes tenants might be taking a small reduction of a rent of look at example at the moment we've got one on the market which was rented for $590. At the moment we had on the market for 2 weeks. It's vacant. I rented for $570. So it's still pretty good rent.
Yeah. But I'll put that into perspective. A $20 difference in rent over 52 weeks, $1,000, right? He goes without rent for 3 weeks. He's already lost $1,500. So a lot of people, some landlords get that, some don't. But for the sake of sitting vacant for 3 weeks, you're going to lose more money than taking a $20 adjustment on your rent and getting a tenant straight away.
Yeah.
Like it's not rocket science. You just want a good steady tenant.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
listen to your property managers. They know what they're doing. They don't want you to take a lesser amount for your property, but they know long term these are the right steps for you guys out there. So not just from our office, from everyone out in the real estate world. But yeah,
Cool.
things looking good.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys, for tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope that was good information for you all. But look, I mean, point out of it all, if you're looking to purchase a property, don't wait. Don't, as I said, we are expecting more and more people at the moment are on the sideline waiting. The ones that aren't getting advice to jump in now. I don't believe, and we don't believe, I think there's going to be a lot more properties come on the market. So there's no better time at the moment, I believe, than at the moment.
Yeah. And as always, guys, any questions, feel free to call us, email, message, jump on our online chats. You know, here at Novac Properties, love to help you. You don't have to be on the Northern Beaches. You know, love to help you with any real estate questions you've got out there, guys.
Done. All right, guys. Good night. Signing off, and see you guys in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Thanks again. Yeah.
Bye.